Hi and welcome to my channel, and in this video I thought I would talk about my top 10 favorite puzzles. I don't think I've ever done such a video before, and one thing to mention is that with time my interest in puzzles has sometimes shifted and changed a little bit here and there, though certain puzzles have remained among my favorites for many years. And some puzzles it was hard to decide, so I included like maybe two puzzles in a certain number from 1 to 10, and it was hard to decide exactly the order from 1 to 10. Certain ones I'm pretty sure which ones I know, but some of the ones, let's say from 5 to 10, it's a little harder to decide which one I actually like more, so it's kind of roughly more or less my top 10 puzzles. So starting with number 10, and before I get into it, let me just mention that things I look for in favorite puzzles include a solve that includes numerous steps, especially if they're not obvious and they require you to think, but at the same time there's an element of intuitive solving to the puzzle, where a lot of it you could do intuitively and you don't have to rely on too many algorithms. But I also enjoy when there are algorithms and parodies, as long as they utilize algorithms that I'm familiar with, like the basic, cuboid algorithms, the Red Bull algorithm, and so on and so forth. So starting with number 10, I would say this puzzle right here, which is the Curvy Copter 3. Really fun puzzle, turns really well, fun solve. I would say this puzzle typically takes me at least 20 minutes to solve. Sometimes it could take 40 or even more minutes, so it's not a simple puzzle, but it's not extremely difficult, and especially towards the end there's a lot of intuitive setups and everything, and really fun puzzle, really enjoy it. So this one would be number 10. Okay, so number 9 is going to be this puzzle here, and this is a 6x6 cube. And the reason I chose this one is because I feel like this is really the first of the big cubes. So you have the 3x3, which is the standard one, then you have the 2x2, which is the smaller one. 4x4 and 5x5, I feel like they're more transitional cubes, that once you have the two cubes that you really have to learn and master to move up to a 6x6 and up. Once you could solve a 6x6, you could pretty much, you should be able to solve a 7x7, 8x8, any size after that. What I also like about this puzzle is that you could actually solve it in numerous different ways. Obviously, first you could solve it by standard reduction, doing the centers, edges, and then like a 3x3. And since it's even layered, you deal with all the parodies. You could also solve it layer by layer. You could also solve it by the parody-free method, where you reduce it into a 2x2, solve it as such. You could also solve it as various types of cuboids. Like if you imagine, for instance, you could solve it like a 5x6x6 or a 5x5x6 or a 4x4x6, and all kinds of ways like that. And you could also solve it just as a 3x3 if you scramble like this, or just as a 4x4, or just as a 5x5. So there's so many options. Let's say you're traveling somewhere, you could only take one cube. This one offers a lot of different options, different ways of solving it, so I really enjoy this puzzle as well. This is 6x6. This is the number 9 on my list. And okay, so put this back. Okay, so number 8 is going to be this puzzle here, the regular tangram cube. Now I couldn't really decide if which one to choose, the regular tangram or the tangram extreme. I really enjoy both of them. What I like about this one is it's a very quick and simple solve. Let's say you have only 3, 4, 5 minutes of free time. Once you understand how to solve this puzzle and you learn it and you've solved it enough times, it's a quick and easy solve. But at the same time, for someone who's not familiar with puzzle, it looks very confusing when you scramble it and make all kinds of turns, and they have no clue what it is, and they're wondering how you could solve it. But once you really understand what it is, which is kind of a cubic shape mod of a pentahedron, which is a 5-sided puzzle. So you have this middle layer which you solve first, and it's fairly intuitive. and then top and bottom layers, and it's a fairly simple solve once you understand it. The key is having to grasp, and it challenges your perspective, and that's what I love about this puzzle, how easy it is but how sophisticated it looks once it's scrambled. And the same goes for the Tangram Extreme. That one looks even crazier once it's scrambled, and obviously it's a little bit more difficult, but at the same time it's not too difficult. Okay, so this one is number 8. And put this back. Okay, so number 7, I chose this puzzle here, which is, it goes by 2 names really, a 3x3 case cube and also a 3x3 ancient fissure cube. I'm not sure which one came first and which is the more proper name. What I love about this is that this is just a 3x3 shape mod, but you can't tell by looking at it because of all these kind of extensions and extra false cuts like this here. This line is not an actual cut, it's just aesthetic. And once you start scrambling it, it looks really complicated and confusing, and definitely more challenging than the regular 3x3 fissure cube. I would say it's as challenging at least as the 3x3 axis cube, maybe even a little more. And this specific puzzle turns really well. I absolutely love it. And so yeah, so this one is number 7 on my list. I'll put this back. Okay, number 6 is this puzzle here, and this is the 3x3x5 fissure cuboid. And there's numerous things I love about this puzzle. One, it turns really well, really smoothly. And also, once it's fully scrambled, you get confused about what the edges are, what the corners are. Even when you know what you're doing, it could get a bit confusing sometimes. The only complaint I have about this puzzle is that they put in the colors. You can see here the yellow and the white. I don't know why they did that. They really didn't have to do that. And what the problem that this causes is that it eliminates the parity you could get where the middle layer gets flipped. It's a very easy fix either way, but it's an extra step we could have had if they wouldn't have included it this way. I don't know why they did it that way, but it is what it is. But nevertheless, it's a really fun solve, not extremely difficult, and that's what I love about puzzles. You know, puzzles that you could solve in like depending on how much time you have. Sometimes I could enjoy a puzzle that takes only a few minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes. This one, as far as I recall, is under 10 minutes, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes solve. So this one is number 6 on my list of favorite puzzles. Let's put this one back. Okay, so I'm looking at the screen here, just remember which ones I put on the list. Okay, so number 5 is going to be this puzzle here. This is the F Cube by Diane. Also turns really well, and what I love about this puzzle is it looks very confusing. And once you first try to learn how to solve this puzzle, it looks like really confusing and not obvious because you have cube turns and you have dino turns. But once you grasp it, it's not extremely difficult, though it does offer a really nice challenge. And you could get, as far as I remember, 2 types of parities in this one. I don't know if you want to call them parities or false equivocations, where you might have a single corner that's flipped, or you might have 3 that need to be rotated, need to be cycled. And yeah, so this is a really fun puzzle, offers a nice challenge, and looks quite challenging when it's mixed up, but once you master it, it's not too difficult. So this one is number 5 on my list. Okay, just putting that one back. Number 4 is okay, so for number 4 I couldn't decide which one to choose, so I'm gonna show both of them. Just get it. So one is this one here, which is a center shifted 3x3x4. Now once again, I don't know why Calvin's Puzzles does this, where like you could see they show the color in here. They really didn't need to do this, and I don't like, you know, how that looks. It doesn't bother me too much, but it does bother me a little. And in this case, it doesn't really take away from the solve, since it wouldn't cause any situations if you have it or if you don't have it. So it turns like this. It's off center, and what I like about it, it's basically a standard 3x3, this part of it, with an extended layer. So The first two layers you solve just as you would a regular 3x3, and the top two layers, first when placing the pieces you solve like a 3x3, and I mean orienting and then placing them, you just have to do the cuboid algorithm. So it combines the 3x3 with a cuboid, and you have to do it simultaneously so it's not obvious. So if one layer, let's say, has 2 corners, swap the other one, you need to swap all 4. You have to do some thinking. It's not obvious, you know. And so I really love that about this puzzle, and the fact that once it's scrambled, it looks really cool. Looks much more sophisticated than a regular 3x3. And yeah, so this is one of the options that I chose for my number 4. And the other one that I couldn't decide which one to choose really is this one here, which is a center shifted 3x3x6. And likewise, you turn it, you can see it's off center. And since the base is actually a 3x3x5, so you could then do 90-degree turns like that. And it looks really messed up and scrambled. Once you scramble it, it looks really complicated. But at the end of the day, it's essentially just a 3x3 with extended layers. So it's not too difficult once you know what you're doing. And a fairly quick solve, but really fun. Both of these puzzles, I love them, so I chose both of them for my number 4. And okay, so let's just put these back in their proper places. Okay, so number 3, and you may guess this, is this 4x4 axis cube. Now, I've enjoyed solving the axis cube for many years. I used to have the one by Moyu that was stickered before this one came out. I had that one back in 2016, and I loved it, but the problem was, which is the reason I usually try to avoid stickered puzzles, these little ones on these little triangles would come off on several of them, and I tried to crazy glue them back on, and it was kind of bumpy, and it just made it worse, and it really annoyed me. And eventually, as I think I sold that puzzle, or I don't remember, I gave it away or I sold it, and I got this one when it came out. And I really love this puzzle. I love that it's 4x4. You get all the parities, and it looks very confusing once it's scrambled. So if it's your first time solving it, it's going to be extremely difficult. But if you solve it enough times and you master it, it's not all that difficult. And yeah, so this one is my number 4. So let's just put this one back. And okay, so no, my mistake, that was the number 3. The 4x4 axis was the number 3. Okay, so number 1 and number 2, you may guess these puzzles right off the bat. I wasn't really sure which one to make number 1 and which one number 2. It was a tough decision, so for now I'm just gonna leave them both in the top 2 spots without specifying which one is 1 and which one is 2. So 1 is this one right here, the Crazy 4x4 by Diane and MF8, and I absolutely love this puzzle. I actually like, even though generally I like shape-shifting puzzles, I like that it doesn't shapeshift and it remains in cubic form, but it's so, you know, not obvious how to solve it, like how you put in these inner pieces, the fact that these little tiny corner pieces, you don't actually have to do anything about them. They look confusing, but they solve themselves when you do all the other steps, how you put in these centers, and the parity in the end, which is unique. And so I absolutely love this puzzle. It can be a bit catchy, which is a little frustrating sometimes, but still definitely one of my top 2. I'm not sure if I would put this at number 1 or number 2. So this one, and the other one is this puzzle right here, which I actually got quite recently, and it's quickly become one of my favorites. Perhaps it's since I recently got it, I'm still very hyped up about this puzzle. Maybe in the future, you know, it's going to take a higher number in the 1 to 10, but at this point it's definitely one of my top 2. And I love many things about this puzzle. First of all, the fact that it's a cuboid. I love cuboids. Second of all, I love that it's off-center, ghosted in a way. You could say it's not really ghosted, but you have to turn it off-center and you have to solve it off-center, which makes it all the more confusing solve. I love that it's an ultimate shapeshifter, a 2x4x6, so it scrambles and bandages in all sorts of ways. I love the fact that many parts of this solve are intuitive, and I love that it requires many different types of algorithms, cuboid algorithms, and then the Red Bull algorithm, The one complaint I have about this puzzle is that when you turn these outer layers during the solve, quite often, and it's not really happening now, but the piece is it pops out of place. It doesn't really pop out, but it kind of pops and you have to pop it back in. Fortunately, nothing actually pops out, or right now it's actually turning quite well, and I don't know why, because during the actual solve, let's suppose I'm trying to turn it like this, and okay, so it happens. So you see right here, and you can keep solving it this way. It's going to kind of get in the way. It just doesn't feel right. You kind of have to snap it back in. So it's not really a huge problem, but it can get a bit annoying. Just turn this. Oh, you see, there it happened again. I was just turning it back, and it kind of does this, and you have to snap it back. And when you're in the middle of an algorithm and you have to snap pieces back, it can get annoying. So if they would, perhaps re-release a different version of this where this problem doesn't happen, that would be perfect. But at the same time, I still love this puzzle very much. All the other layers turn really well, and this layer turns well too, aside from the fact that it snaps out kind of every now and then. So these are my top 2, and the other ones you saw from the top 10. So yeah, feel free to share what are your favorite top 10 puzzles in your collection. And that will be all for this video. Thank you for watching, and until next time.